Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in. Okay, welcome to this episode of the Ending Body Burnout Show. Today, we've got an interesting one. Philly's going to be talking to you guys about her boobs. So this is going to be interesting. I'm interested to know more about Philly's boobs. So Philly, let's chat about this.
Okay, when we were talking about before we press record, and Chris is like, this is how I'm going to start it. I had a little memory pop up in my head that I'm going to quickly share first because it's kind of funny. When we first started doing, I don't know if you remember this. You will when I tell you.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
When we first started doing like videos and we're getting like kind of professional in our business and like, it's like, okay, this is how you show up. We actually had a speaking coach. And she was in the media, so I can't even remember her name. She was pretty cool. She was funny. We had a session with her. And she's like, Philly, you need to smile more. Your face is a bit deadpan. And I'm like, okay. And so anytime, for a very long time before we press record, Chris would say just boobs.
I would say boobs.
Boobs.
Why?
Well, the story is, this is many, many years ago. I put some things on buy and sell, or Chris did actually. And the place that we used to live in many, many years ago had only one, there was a heater that was right at the back door of our house that had windows, clear windows. Hardly anyone ever came to the back door and knocked on the door without us, expecting anyone to be there. One day I'm there after a shower, fully naked, in front of this heater, right at the back door, and I see this man walking up, about to knock on the door, and like literally he was about a meter away. So this is our story. So anytime you see my face on camera and I've got a big smile at the start of a session, it's because I'm thinking of that really embarrassing moment that occurred when I was like totally naked and this random guy who came to buy some exercise equipment off Chris saw my boobs and everything else.
Boobies.
Okay, so this is a personal episode today. Personally specifically to me, Chris is coming along for the ride because he likes to talk about boobs, my boobs.
I like to look at Philly's boobs.
Okay, anyway. So I wanted to share.
Sorry, Anne.
Sorry, Mum. I wanted to share.
She gets it from you.
Shut up. Okay, this is going to be serious. We are going to get serious here because it's a personal story of how I recently applied the metaphysical side of healing that we take our clients through inside our Ending Body Burnout Method. For our clients or past clients that are listening to this, you will know what we're talking about. This is Spark. So how I personally applied Spark to something that I went through recently. And I get very personal about my boobs, as well as a hidden belief about being a weirdo that was manifesting in hormonal symptoms. So I hope that you get not just entertainment, but also that you get a really good insight. So for our clients and past clients that listen to this, a really cool insight in terms of, well, how do you apply the metaphysical spark side of healing ongoing for the rest of your life? And if you haven't worked with us, if you haven't done our Ending Body Burnout Method, and you have been a listener for a while, this will be really great too in terms of like, oh, that's what they mean when they're talking about metaphysical healing. Oh, that's what it actually looks like. And oh my gosh, these are the results that can come when you deeply listen and connect with yourself. So I'm I'm going to start off with talking a bit about my female hormone history. So in high school, I was a late bloomer. I didn't get my period until I was in college. So in Tasmania, we do high school from grade 7 to 10, and then college is 11 and 12. So I was in college. I was like 17 years old when I got my period, which had pros and cons. The pro was that I didn't have a period. And then when I did get my period, I really only got it every 4 to 6 months. And I had a lot of hormonal acne and I got some PMS. But, you know, I only got a period like 2 or 3 times a year. So that was kind of a pro at the time. I'll talk about the cons later on. But definitely a con came along when Chris and I got together. We got married. A few years into our marriage, we're like, okay, let's start having kids. And we had infertility issues. So tried for, I think it was like 2 years and nothing had happened. We were trying regularly. Chris saw a lot of the boobs then.
Interesting.
And so anyway, ended up going to the doctor. Back then I had no idea about natural medicine. I had a friend that was all like into naturopaths and energy healing. And she's like, you need to go see a naturopath. And I'm like, what even is that? Now I'm going to go to the doctor because they know things. So they did a lot of tests. I was diagnosed with PCOS. So I wasn't ovulating, which made a lot of sense in terms of why we weren't falling pregnant. Again, I just went down the medical route, ended up having the drug Clomid to help me ovulate, got pregnant, had a miscarriage, and then got pregnant maybe about 4 or 5 months after that. So after kids, my cycle got a bit better, but it was still long. It was like 40 to 50 days. I continued to struggle with PMS. After kids, I was so emotional, PMS emotional, like I would literally cry at, I don't even know if this TV show still runs, but it was Ground Force. So where like the team would come and redo someone's backyard. And I remember just crying at the end of those like reality TV shows, like, oh, like happy but sad. And I didn't really even know what emotion I was experiencing. I was just crying. Sleep issues, pimples, like even like little black hairs growing on my chin. Then I came to discover functional medicine. So, and this was the first time that I started seeing changes as I started testing and supporting the body systems with supplements and like healing diets. The big key areas that helped me in my female hormone journey was definitely adrenal and sex hormone support. So I was in adrenal fatigue, but I also had really low progesterone, and detox work was really important too. But I still had to stay on herbs and have some sort of external source taken inside my body to continue having a regular cycle and very little PMS symptoms. So, that's already like, there's still something going on underneath the surface, but I was sort of managing it. Later on, I realized then that the baggage in my unconscious mind was making a huge impact or having a huge impact on my hormones. And it wasn't until I started doing the deeper metaphysical root cause work that my hormones became more regulated and like I could actually regulate them on my own without obviously still living a healthy lifestyle, but it wasn't like I was dependent on an outside supplements in order for my hormones to be regulated. Okay, so then, so all of that was happening over the years, and it was about 4 or 6 months ago, I started having some hormonal symptoms popping up. And even before then, my hormones will show up as a message from my unconscious mind. And I now never see it as like, oh no, something physical's gone out of whack. Maybe I need to, like detox better or something. It's always something deeper. There's always something deeper that my body is trying to get my attention for, because my hormones are very connected to the nervous system, or everyone's hormones are connected to the nervous system and stress. So if I break rapport with myself, or I move into a new level of growth and things feel uncertain and my nervous system's kind of freaking out, well, then they can then push those hormones or reduce the progesterone again. So usually the warning signals will be like my sleep isn't as good, especially leading up to my period. And also what I've found is those little warning signals were never resolved by just doing more supplements. It was actually having a deep conversation with myself and taking action based on what showed up that needed addressing. So about 4 to 6 months ago, I noticed that my sleep was getting disrupted leading up to my period, and I was getting really sore boobs. And this was happening over like several cycles. And if it's one cycle, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But when it becomes a pattern, it's like, ooh, there's something going on that needs my attention. But my boobs were so sore, like to the point where our youngest daughter loves cuddles. And she's kind of like aggressive with her cuddles too. Like she'll get in there.
She loves jiu-jitsu. If my jiu-jitsu coach Matt is listening to this, so anything that you've taught me, Matt,
that'd be weird
my
if
daughter
he wants to listen to a podcast about boobs.
This would be really interesting. I wonder if he's going to send me a message. Anyway, I love to do jiu-jitsu with my youngest daughter, and she's really good at it. Anyway. So I think she misses the filter. It's like, is this a dad Elsie affection, wrestle, cuddle, arm bars, headlocks, or is this a mum cuddle?
I think
it's very different.
Well, I think it's a little bit of an anxious kind of attachment thing too sometimes, where it's just like, I have to cuddle you really hard so that you have all my attention, or I have all of your attention. She has
secret kisses with us. Like she's got a, like you can have secret handshake with someone. Like there's a pattern. She'll go kiss, cat, tap, fist bump, random things, big hug, and yes, she gets into it.
Yeah. So anyway, I knew my boobs were becoming an issue because I literally couldn't cuddle her anymore. Like I was pushing her away, not because I didn't want to cuddle her back, but because my boobs were in pain. And I also noticed, so the sore boobs, the sleep was getting disrupted, and also noticed that I was getting a bit dysregulated emotionally leading up to the period over several cycles, to the point where I'm like, oh, old patterns are coming back. Oh, like, why do I feel like there's this urgency and need to like overdo and do a lot of things? The moment the period came, it's like, oh, like Philly's back. And a little bit of a period headache. Now, it wasn't bad enough that I'm like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. It was just like these symptoms were clearly there, and they needed my attention. So my brain, because my initial way of trying to heal my body when I was in like the depths of body burnout was always physical. Like I was always like, oh, I'm feeling it physically. There must be a physical issue, or it has to be solved physically. So even to this day, when I have little signals pop up, my brain will immediately go to the physical. I'm like, oh, I'm 40 now, perimenopause. Oh no. Am I going into perimeno? And my hormones out of whack? But I've created a relationship with myself for long enough now that I know better. Even if it is perimenopause, even if my hormones are changing because I'm going into menopause at some point in my life in the future, I believe that I, as well as every woman, has the ability and power to move into menopause symptom-free. So it's like, yeah, cool. If it is or if it isn't, I don't care. I know that I can live my life with beautiful, balanced hormones. So I started becoming inquisitive. What was going on beneath the surface? So I actually just like full on skipped. Like I didn't even bother doing any lab testing, because I know that when these acute things pop up and they're more subtle, they're very easily solved from a metaphysical point of view. Just in the same way that we coach and teach our clients the same thing as well. You don't have to continue doing tests and supplements and restricted diets for the rest of your life. Yes, that's important for like the deeper physical healing that our clients go through when they do our method. But after that, you are your own self-healer. You have total ability and capacity to heal yourself, especially when you can listen to the small things that start popping up before they become big things. So anyway, okay, so 3 or 4 months ago, I was preparing for a group call, which is all about somatisation and childhood. So that's essentially where in your childhood you can have past distressing events occur and they haven't been processed properly, and essentially they get blocked as blocked energy or emotion, and they get stored in the body. And then this blocked energy can show up as physical symptoms. So as I was preparing for this workshop for our clients inside our method, I prepared a symptom and inner child somatic guided meditation process to help our clients inside the method enter into their childhood through a symptom to gather more information and hopefully clear it. So I'm like, okay, cool. I love to practice what I preach. So as I was preparing for this, my boobs were sore, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this for myself right now. And the inner child process, which by the way, I'll put in the show notes, because so many clients, if Chris and I mention a process or a coaching framework or something inside the method, they're always like, which one was that? Can you send me the link? So I'm going to put any links that I mention in the show notes. It's only accessible to clients inside the method, but this is helpful for those who have access to it. So anyway, I went back to my childhood, closed my eyes. I entered this process through my sore boobs and my uterus. And I ended up in teenage years, and I ended up in a memory where I was sitting in high school feeling really left out because all my other friends were always talking about their periods and I still didn't have mine. So remember, I didn't get my period until 17. So like all through high school, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I just got my period, or oh, I've got my period now. Now these conversations weren't like light and happy and butterflies. Most of my friends didn't like it. But I still felt left out. I felt like there was something wrong with me, like I wasn't womanly or girly enough to get my period. So during the process, I did some clearing and sort of some integration with my inner child and my inner teenage filly, and I had a really lovely experience. Came out of that, did the workshop, but as the weeks continued, this memory kept surfacing to my mind. And it's like, okay, again, pattern detected. Why are you still here? Oh, there must be something still unresolved here. And then I was just curious. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens in my next cycle. And my next cycle came around and I still had super sore boobs. So I knew that there was more work to be done. Doing just one inner child process wasn't going to be enough to solve this, which I think is a really important teaching for listeners as well, that you might have tried some things and maybe you gave it a little crack for, I don't know, a month, or you did a process and you're like, oh, nothing happened. Like this stuff is just woo-woo. This doesn't work. Give me the scientific stuff that I can see on a lab test, and then I'll take the supplement. But the thing with...
Well, sometimes it gets worse.
Yeah, sometimes it gets worse. Yeah, actually.
In the short term, like that happens enough times that it's interesting to note.
Do you mean like when someone does more of a metaphysical type shifting process?
Yeah, and especially when they stop managing and masking, and then all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, I realize why I was taking the caffeine or taking the painkillers or taking the medicinal marijuana, or why I was doing the things to mask and to manage and medicate, because now I feel rubbish.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And then sometimes too, if things get worse after one more metaphysical process, well, I mean, it's clear data that the work isn't done yet. And so it's like you've opened the box, but then it's like, your nervous system, unconscious mind can kind of start freaking out too, where it's just like, whoa, can you handle this? And like, it's like, and so it can create uncertainty in your system.
So we double down at that point, which is, I think, what you're about to talk about, like we won't run away and we'll be like, yeah, cool, awesome, all right.
Yeah, I actually see that as awesome data that's like, this is where you need to go.
Yeah, obstacle is the way.
Obstacle is the way. Okay, so I didn't have an adverse reaction. I actually had a lovely experience, but then like nothing budged physically for me and this memory continued to pop up. So it's like, okay, cool. Some work needs to be done. Now, also for any clients listening who understand the spark process and the way that we work, is that sometimes things need to be done more thoroughly. And sometimes people get really frustrated about that. They're like, oh, I thought I only had to like do this healing once or do this like spark process once and then everything would be okay. But the thing is that this work continues until the day you die and maybe even after, because the metaphysical work is communication with self-work. And so if you stop communicating with yourself, that's where you end up in body burnout again. So, and sometimes the conversation can be quick and subtle and, you know, kind of like surface level and it solves the issue. But most of the time, a deeper conversation must be had with self. So I got serious, practice what I preach, embodied coach, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start our spark process again. And our spark process contains 3 main parts. So the first part is reckoning. The second part is nervous system regulation, rewiring, reprogramming. And the third part is purposeful living. And I'll talk about these 3 parts in terms of what I did. So for the reckoning part, it's like, okay, what are the patterns that are showing up? Okay, I've got these hormone stuff showing up. I've got the sore boobs. I'm feeling PMS, emotional, or triggered. My sleep's a little bit off. I'm also I noticed that there were some patterns of conversations where I felt triggered as well with different people, different situations, but the trigger and the feeling was still there, as if I had to prove or defend myself. And my body had a somatic response. So I got clear and honest on, okay, what dysfunctional patterns are showing up that I don't want anymore, that are coming up as pain points, but also messages from the deepest part of myself. Then with that data, it's like, let's go back into the past then, because there is often an imprint from the past that hasn't yet been fully resolved or upgraded. Or sometimes there might be past experiences that you have worked on and it's shifted, but there's now a different nuance to it. So anyway, the past experience was like this memory that kept repeating again and again about being back at high school, feeling left out. And then I just started asking more questions around that. So what does it mean about me? Feeling left out. I was feeling left out all the time. Initially I thought, oh, I think I'm unlikable, because that is how I felt. Like if I wasn't cool and part of the cool girl crowd, then they'd kick me out. Is it something around I'm unlikable? And I mulled over this for a week or so, but it didn't quite feel right in terms of like a deeper root belief that needed to be reviewed and upgraded and cleared. And so then I got serious. I'm like, okay, I still haven't quite got there. So I pulled out my journal and I just wrote out a lot of stuff. And I started connecting back to the dysfunctional patterns that were showing up. So I dug deep. I got honest. I shone a light on my blind spots. I got honest with myself and all these little subtle patterns that were playing out. And I ended up landing on I'm a weirdo. It actually wasn't that I was unlikable. There was actually a belief, a teenage filly belief, that I'm a weirdo. And I got there after probably writing 3 pages of like just looking at the patterns and what does this mean? And what does this mean? And what does this mean about me? And I knew that I'd hit the right belief that needed reviewing, upgrading, and clearing, because there was a sense of being heard by myself. Like somatically, I felt it in my body. It was right before bed, and I remember saying thank you to myself. Thank you for trusting me enough to allow me to know this. And I had a cry, and I had a cry for both myself, but also for teenage Philly, because I actually felt her hurt again. There was an emotional charge still there around the teenage years. And what was interesting too was that the I'm a weirdo actually had less to do with my hormones and not getting my period, and it had more to do with that I was so petrified as a teenager in high school that my friends would find out that I went to church, and then they would bully and laugh and ridicule me, and that they would throw me out of the tribe. So that's where the deeper weirdo stuff came about, that I accused myself of being a weirdo because I went to church. And then I was constantly like trying to hide it, like literally hide the truth of me to my friends, like only revealed parts of me to them. And it so happened that this period, this cycle, this hormone thing went hand in hand with that as well. And so it had less to do with feeling left out because of a period, and it had more to do with this deeper fear of being a weirdo and being found out that I was weird.
There's a clear I am accusation. It's like a dirty, secret, nasty thing that you said to yourself, hey, like I am a weirdo. You know, like this wasn't, as far as what you've just said there, like that wasn't something that your friends said, like you weirdo. Like this is something that you've...
Oh, it was totally in my head. In fact, I was so clever at hiding this that I was like Mrs. Cool. I was like in the popular crowd. You know those awards at the end of high school? I think I won the Best Bum Award.
Awesome.
Oh, that's interesting. Boobs and bum. Like, wow, okay. And there was another one. Maybe it was my boyfriend that I was with in high school that I hardly ever spoke to. It's like they're the most likely to get married award. Like they're so cool. Ben Reynolds, if you're listening to this, that is you.
Wow. Interesting.
So anyway, so there was a lot of stuff, and I remember in high school this was like a real fear. This was any time I would turn up on a Monday morning and all my friends were talking about what they did on the weekend, my heart would be pounding. Like I had a very visceral physical sensations in my body where I was like so scared. I'm like, today's the day that I'm going to be found out that I went to church yesterday on a Sunday, and then I'm going to get kicked out from the cool crowd, and I'm going to have no friends, and everyone's going to laugh at me, and I'm like going to die, but the tiger's going to eat me. And there was one time that a girl in the year above me, she was quite nasty, and she found out, and she told some of my friends that were boys, and I was petrified. Like I remember that day I was like frozen. So I'm sharing the intensity of this because this is the sort of stuff that can get stuck in the body that even as a rational adult, I think back to that time now and I'm like, oh, you poor little girl. Like they would have loved you regardless. And even if some didn't or some thought you were weird, like whatever, it doesn't matter. But for that teenage girl that had and I was too scared to even like talk about this with my family because then I'd feel like I'd betray them as well. It's almost like, oh, hang on, you think you're weird because you're like part of our family? I'm like, no, but I love you. So it was like this constant to and fro. Anyway, so uncovered that. And then I gave myself an effective apology that night, that all at the same time. What did I do? Why did I do it? Deep empathy for the younger teenage Philly and also for myself, the patterns it created, and a believable plan it wouldn't happen again. And then I got clear on, well, what do I want now? So this is still part of reckoning. So it's like, okay, I don't want this anymore. I don't want sore boobs and sleepless nights and getting triggered in certain conversations where I felt like I was going to be found out as being a weirdo and chucked out of the tribe. What do I want instead? Well, I want healthy, balanced hormones. I want to feel balanced in my luteal phase. I want to have like lovely progesterone. I want to move into perimenopause season with ease and grace into my next queen chapter. And then like other life stuff that was showing up as little things as well. Like I want to be an embodied coach. I don't want to shy away from hard conversations. I want to create certainty for clients and help them feel and know that their issues are totally solvable. It's simple. I want to grow my confidence with my business with confidence and step into new circles. I want connected, loving relationships with my husband and my children. So this is rewiring the brain or focusing the brain towards what you do want, not what you don't want anymore. So this is kind of like finishing off what we call the reckoning phase. And then with all of the data, all the bits and pieces, and now having a clear vision of what you do want, this is where we start regulating, rewiring and reprogramming. And we have a really big focus in our method where it's like, okay, well, first and foremost, let's regulate this deepest root belief that is important for you to clear right now. And so for me, because I've done this many times, when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, now I've seen it. I'm a weirdo. Okay, and I see where it's coming from. I can clear this fast because I'm like really good at this work. Now I can clear it fast. And the weirdest thing happened that next day, I was so dysregulated. I don't remember if you remember this, Chris, but I can't remember what happened. It was in the afternoon. The kids got home and I screamed at our youngest child. I can't remember what it was, but I was making dinner. I was trying to make something that was like a Therese cutter recipe and there were like lots of elements to it. And I was in the kitchen for a long time and then Elsie wanted me to cut an orange or something and I just screamed like a monster. And I was like, whoa, what the heck is going on? I've just dug up all of this and I'm going to clear it fast and I actually feel worse. So actually the worst thing started happening. But again, it was almost like, okay, cool. Well, if I just look at this with curiosity, what's happening here? I need to go a bit deeper. I'm not going to do this cheaply. I thought I could do it fast, but actually maybe I can do it fast, but not cheaply. And so I spent the next week or two just really starting to viscerally reprogram the belief, embodied declarations, catching myself in like little subtle moments where it's like, oh no, I don't believe that anymore. Oh no, I don't believe that anymore. Changing my behavior. And then about a week or two later, we did an inner child breathwork session with one of our guests inside our method, Gillard. Amazing. So many clients were just like sharing stories of like what came out of that. So cool. But it was pretty intense. So we did, it's called holotropic breathing, hey? So you kind of like, it's quite invigorating, intense breathing.
Getting high on your own supply, pretty much.
Getting high on your own supply, opening up all your senses. And then Gillard flipped us into a inner child meditation. And as soon as we flipped into that, I was there, like immediately. I was back at high school with my teenage self and I had a chat with her. And at the end of that session, I came out with this overwhelming new belief that was like so visceral that I could feel that it had changed in my unconscious mind, that I'd gone from being a weirdo to I'm a ray of sunshine. Like I'm a ray of sunshine. And I started seeing it everywhere. Like in my body, I felt it, like love and light and butterflies and sunshine in my body. But I also started seeing it in relationships, especially when things weren't doing so well. Like when we had little fights, I'm like, hang on, if I'm a ray of sunshine, I've just betrayed myself. Like a ray of sunshine is actually like an awesome wife. And so, but my brain moved towards that rather than away from it. And then even in coaching too, I'm like, I'm a ray of sunshine. People are like, oh, people are so lucky to speak with me today. I can't wait to have these conversations. And I also saw I'm a ray of sunshine and I also don't shy away from hard conversations because I've got the sun now. I've got the sun and I'm going to shine it on your blind spots and it's going to be great. It's going to be great because you're going to get more of what you want. So it was pretty phenomenal. I actually cleared really fast and I knew things had changed because I was being different. I was experiencing different things. And then my next period came along And it was very interesting. I was curious to see what was happening. I wasn't attached to anything, but far out, my boobs were like way better. They were still a tad sore. So there was still a little bit of information that it's like, oh, there's still something that needs to be done, but like gone from 100% to I'd probably say like 10%. So amazing. My sleep was great, had no sleep issues. My emotions were a lot more regulated. And when the boobs showed up as And when the boobs showed up a little bit sore, I was accessing different things that we teach our clients too. So sensations is still hanging around. Safety anchor is amazing, where you actually create somatically the feeling of safety in your body. And every time I did that, touch my chest, light and love went from the top of my chest to the bottom of my boobs, and like literally just evaporated any uncomfortable sensation from my boobs. Also used word swapping, like, oh, my boobs are less calm today, less balanced today. And yeah, so I was stacking on a lot of those processes that we teach our clients. So anyway, all of that was great. The fact that the boobs were still a little bit sore though, like, we teach our clients that the signals should be off. So if you've done this work but you have a symptom show up again and it's a message from the unconscious mind, when you take action on whatever you need to do in order to realign with self again and build rapport with self, that signal should switch off. So this will be for a podcast for another day, but there was some data that showed up maybe like a few days later after all of this, because this is while we were in Derby, where Chris and I had a pretty big fight. It was a big one. It was a doozy. And it was just, again, so this is now where I'm going into purposeful living. So this is a third part, the last part of what we call Spark. And it's like, great, so you've done all this lovely work inside of yourself and things are changing. Well, how about we live on purpose now? And that also means that your work life is on purpose, and your marriage is on purpose, and your parenting is on purpose, and everything outside of you is on purpose and in alignment. So we had a little tiff, which again, we'll probably share next month, because I feel like there's lots of learnings that can come from that. And yeah, there was like a betrayal of self. So I was still out of alignment with my new belief that I'm a ray of sunshine. Because if I'm a ray of sunshine, then why is my most important relationship, why has that gone sour? Why have I allowed that to happen? What's going on here?
You're like the ray of sunshine turned into a Death Star ray.
Turn into a thunderstorm. And so that was cool, but because I had up leveled, then it meant that, okay, well, like our relationship needs to up level too, because that's kind of a little bit out of alignment now based on who I want to be and who I have become, and where I'm heading in my life. And so anyway, we've started having some breaking down the game around our marriage, which is a big part of purposeful living. Like, what's the game that you want to play in the important areas in your life, and how are you going to make that happen? Anyway, more on that later. I do find, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I do find that clients who get amazing results in the method go all the way. Like there's a tendency for people to kind of stop it after nervous system regulation. They're like, oh, that was lovely, I feel good. But then they're not integrating and taking action in their outside life and creating the life of their dreams. I find that like every part of our process is essential. And if the last part is missed, then it's kind of like you break rapport again, because it's like, this is all out of alignment still. Even though I've done the work on myself, but I'm not now being the leader to create change in my marriage or in my work or in my business.
Yeah, and I actually find, so there's the three friction points, I guess you could say, where people run away would be at the end of every phase. Like at the end of reckoning, people don't lean into when people have that friction, they might not be leaning into regulating themselves.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like the adrenaline of like finding the root cause and the monster under the bed and oh my gosh, I see it now.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay.
But I don't want to do anything about it.
But I don't want to do anything about
it. And then it's like, okay, and the next one is like what you said, after nervous system regulation, and not leaning into purposeful living.
Which is really upgrading from child to adult. It's like, oh yeah, but I don't want to demand change in my marriage now because that will like, I don't know, I might pee people off.
And then there's after nervous system is regulated, after we've done that, and then it's like at the end of purposeful living, when you up level and the new problem comes out, it's like,
there can be resistance to doing it all over again. Haven't I done this already?
Yeah.
Do I have to do this again? This sucks. This doesn't work. Okay, I'll go practitioner or course hop now.
Yeah. So it's
rather than becoming the adult of you and your own self-healer, self-regulator.
It's fascinating breaking it down and seeing it from our perspective, like noticing where these friction points happen. I think it's awesome. Having that data available to us. We're always changing because we know what you have to be silly to not notice these things pop up as patterns in people. So we're constantly trying to change our strategy for helping people to change their state and their stories. And how we deliver this out to people. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So hopefully that you got some like practical things or little insights for your own journey. And also too, if you're like, oh, wow, gee, this is deep. Like this healing goes beyond just doing a lab and taking a supplement, which we also do because it up levels, fast tracks the healing. But if you're being pulled to a deeper way of working on your health because the surface level Band-Aid approaches just haven't been working for you, not until January, so still a little wait to go, but our doors do open again to our Ending Body Burnout Method program, which is a 6-month program in January, end of Jan. In the show notes, I'll pop a link to our wait list, which you're very welcome to pop your name down. You'll be the first to be notified when doors do open. You'll also get early bird access as well, which means that you get first dibs on spots. We only have limited spaces because our program includes one-on-one support. And you also get $500 worth of early bird bonuses if you join up before the doors officially open in January.
Almost all of the time in most recent times, our spots have filled up. So if you're not on the waiting list, you're probably going to miss out again.
Yeah, by the time the doors have closed, we're maxed.
Yeah.
And if you can't wait until January and you really want to start the process, we do have a Connect the Dots initial consult, which is the first step in our method that you can book into. I'll pop the link there. I think there might be some spots available in November and some in December. But yeah, check that out. And looking forward to catching up if you choose to.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout Assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.